Check my page. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Are you seeing it?
Yes. I'm already seeing it on the screen, live on Facebook. So did you
Okay.
host on your page or on Trivia?
On my page. What is happening here now? I can't even get out of here.
Get out on where?
Can't get out of the screen. Can't get back to Zoom.
The Facebook screen.
Yeah. Okay.
Just go back to your
No, I've done that.
dashboard,
Good.
your major dashboard. You see Zoom. Click on the Zoom, you get back in there.
All right.
Ma, I think I'll suggest you leave it like that, though, because you already had like 7 viewers.
No, I'm
from
not.
your
It's okay.
personal page.
I know it's fine. I'll leave it like that. I want to share Trebian.
Okay.
Touch, you ready?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
It's time.
Okay, Touch, you want to start? I can't find my
Good afternoon,
document.
everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's edition of the Optical Series, our webinar, our weekly webinar hosted by Trivian Event. Welcome you to this edition. Today we'll be looking at, in the series Eye for Detail, we'll be looking at the topic piece of cake. We'll be looking at the topic piece of cake. It's common knowledge now that virtually every event, except for probably funerals, we always have a cake present to celebrate and to add color to the events. So we'll be looking at the act of having a cake and what every single issue and detail about the cake. And today we would be having the CEO of Trivian Event take us through this class. Let's welcome her, Izobe Spiff, as she takes us through this class. Welcome, ma'am.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Izobe Spiff, and welcome to the Octopus series. This is the topic today is Eye for Detail, piece of cake. So everybody knows that for an event, any special event you have, a cake is almost all the time present. We have a cake for most events. A cake is made out of dough. It's sweet. It's originally a modified version of bread. In the olden days, it was bread that was the normal thing that you bake. But now, with a cake, in modern times, we have a cake. So I'm trying to share my slide here. I'm going to be taking us through all the nitty-gritty about helping your clients choose their wedding cake or choose a cake for their event. And when you are doing that, there are little details that you should consider. There are little details you should consider in choosing your cake. When your client tells you that I want this kind of cake, the design, the flavors, how you choose your vendor, all of these are key. First things first, you want to speak to your client, understand what it is that they want. That is key, because remember, you are only rendering a service. Your client is in charge. Your client is in charge of all the details. Your client tells you what they want, and you give your client the very best based on their instructions. So quickly going into what your client wants. For the cake, you will choose flavors, you will choose designs, you will talk about colors, and that will now take you into, you as a planner will now decide who to use in terms of the vendor, the baker, or if it's dessert, whoever it is you want to use for that. We will bear in mind that choosing a wedding cake or choosing a cake for any event is very key because your client's instructions should be strictly adhered to. If your client says, I want a white cake, you cannot go bring a black cake or something else. You have to work in line with what your client has asked you to do. We have cakes for different events. We have cakes for weddings. We have cakes for receptions. We have cakes for birthdays, celebratory events, children's birthdays, christenings. You have cakes for office parties, retirements, and all of that. So these are different things that you're considering when you are choosing a cake for your client. Your client wants to know that you have done the very best for them and you understand what it is that they want. Okay, I'm having a bit of an issue trying to share my slides. That is not coming up. So we'll just go on. So for cakes, there are different, you want to ask your client what they want, what flavors they want, what kind of feelings they want. There are different kinds of cakes. There are strawberry cakes, carrot cakes, chocolate cakes, coconuts, walnuts, different fruit cakes. There's so many kinds of cakes, and you want to relay all of this to your baker, whoever it is that you're going to be using. Your client needs to know that you are on point when it comes to relaying your instructions to them. So if it's a birthday, for instance, you want to know what kind of colors you're working with, colors for the event, or if there's a theme, or if there's a general feel for the cake. Before you even go into cake tasting, you want to find out all the necessary information from your client. Your client needs to let you know everything that they want concerning their cakes. So, okay, I think it's gonna come up now. One minute, please. All All right, I think I got it now. Okay, so yes, we've talked about different kinds of cake, banana cake, lemon. There are so many. Cakes are fantastic. You understand? We want, if it's a birthday cake, reception cake, just make sure your client's instructions are strictly adhered to. You want to ask your baker what kind of, how is your sugar craft? What do you use to achieve that? Butter icing, fondant icing, you want to know what they're going to be working with. If your client, for instance, says, "Oh, I want a butter icing, butter ice cake," find out from your baker if they are accustomed to doing that, and if for the timelines you have and for the kind of weather that we have, whether that cake will keep. You need to know if where you are going to be, if it's going to be outdoors, buttercream cake will not stay. And for most bakers, it doesn't help them to be super creative. The cakes you see these days, they're out of this world. You see really creative cakes, and fondant works better for that. You also want to ask your baker whether it's a Valentine's cake, a cake for kids. Like I said, people want to be they want to be super creative. If you look at the cake on your screen, it looks like a handbag and a box. Literally, until you cut it, people will not believe that it's not the real deal. So depending on your client's instructions, like for this kind of design, this creative cake, it won't work with buttercream. You can't achieve it with buttercream. So your best bet is to work with fondant. So explain all of this to your clients. That's why you must have knowledge in all of these areas of planning. For cakes, you should have knowledge of what kind of sugar craft they can work with. Like for instance, if they're going to be doing sugar flowers, if that's the preference of your clients, or whether they want fresh blooms, or whether they can just go with artificial flowers, whatever they want, relate to your baker and let's get going. So you have anniversary cakes, you can have Christmas cakes. Christmas is a fantastic celebration. One of the most important festivals in the world, celebrated the world round, celebrated globally, sorry. And a cake is a must. Just have a cake present. It makes everything really nice. Christmas cakes can be traditionally fruit cakes, but these days you can mix it up freestyle with any flavor you want. This is another creative cake. You cannot achieve this with butter icing. It's real good sugar craft, which is mixed with every other stuff to recreate this kind of cake. So you have so many things that you can make out of cake. There's so many designs. And look at this. This is like a sleeping baby. So for a baby shower, yes, you want to have cake present. For events for ladies, you can have a tea party. You can have a bachelorette eve. You can have a bridal shower. Different events where you have cakes present. So the most visible, or the most visible area where you see, or event where you see a cake, is a wedding. It's iconic, it's eye-catching. You see it there, it stands out. So from your cake table to the cake itself, the taste, the sugar crafts, everything must be on point. Your clients need to know, needs to be given different options. If your client is a blank slate, oh, I don't know, I just know I want my cake to be really nice and elaborate, you can do that. You can do that, show them different cakes, show them different toppings, show them different stuff so that they can make an informed decision. You would want them to let you know if they want the cake stacked. When you have your cake stacked, there's nothing in between, nothing separating the cakes. You have cake boards that would help you to steady them. If they want cake separators between the tiers are the different layers of the cakes. That's what we call them, tiers. If they want them separated, you can have different kinds of separators. You can use pillars, you can use other alternative designed separators. You can even use glasses. I've had an event when the cake separator didn't come. So when the baker loaded her stuff, it didn't come. So we had to improvise because the wedding was about to start. We got four wine glasses, filled them with red wine, and put the top layer. My bride was really happy. She was like, "Oh, this looks so nice. I didn't pay for this." I was like, "No, it's fine. We know we talked about it afterwards, but it was a good improvisation, and I'm happy that it worked out well." So there are different things you can use to separate a cake. They are the separators that you would normally find. And for the top layer, the cake toppers, some people may just go with no topper. Like if it's a birthday cake, you may just write on it, "Happy birthday, Zoe," for instance. For a wedding cake, traditionally you have a bride and groom on it. These days, people go crazy with very funny cake toppers where you have maybe the bride dragging the groom, or the groom piggybacking the bride. Different stuff. They're just different stuff. If you want to go playful, that's fine. If you want to do the traditional or groom and bride together, just standing, that's fine. You can even do, you can have a topper just written in with letters, just written in words. You can have different stuff. So if you have Fabulous 40, or if it's You and I Forever, it depends on what you want. So give your clients all these options. They need to know that they can have all these options. I'm very sure that in the olden days, we didn't have, years back, we didn't have traditional wedding cakes. So that wasn't trendy, but now it is. And the Nigerian bakers, thumbs up to them. They have really stepped it up a lot. In fact, quite a number of notches, if you ask me, because they have taken the cakes and given us beautiful traditional wedding cakes. So you wouldn't normally say, "Oh, I want to eat cake at a traditional wedding," but when you see a beautiful cake like this, of course you would want to. So these are samples on your screen. These are samples of some traditional wedding cakes. There are some that are even more beautiful. They have just perfected the art of giving us really beautiful wedding cakes, traditional wedding cakes. So if you, for instance, you're from, okay, like the one on your screen, that looks like an Edo groom and bride. You can improvise and pick different pieces from people's cultures, from different cultures. Like if it's a Yoruba wedding, you may want to, maybe you see Ashoke, or you will see Adire or something that depicts the Yoruba culture. If you come down here, you may want to see, or you may see, they may advise you to put wrappers, the George wrappers. For the Edos, you will see you will see the traditional beads. We just have different elements that help you identify where the bride and groom are from. So you may see other cakes where you mix, if they're from different cultures, you mix, so a bit of this and a bit of that. It just helps everyone, it just makes it more colorful. Everywhere just looks nicer. So so the wedding cakes, so wedding cakes for traditional, for white weddings, I must. You can skip on the traditional wedding, but for your white wedding, it's compulsory. So when you see wedding cakes, they come in variety of sizes. So it depends on what your client wants. If the client wants a 2-tier cake, that's fine. 3-tier, 4-tier. We can even have a 7-tier. If they want a giant cake, why not? We can even have a 7-tier cake with cakes all surrounding. So it depends on how they want it. It's their call. Some people are not able to foot that cost, because the more cakes, the more expensive your bill. you can advise your clients that, look, if you want that kind of elaborate cake, it's still achievable, just that most of them will be dummies. You can choose one tier as the real one and the rest are dummies. That's what really happens actually. People don't know because they're so nicely done. So that way you are still within your budget with the kind of cake, with the kind of elaborate cake that you want. So choosing your baker, you have to think of all of this, and you also need to speak to the baker concerning costs, concerning all the client's instructions, which are doable, which can you achieve. If there are some that may not be appropriate, the baker can advise and you also can advise. So if your client is not in that meeting, if you have to relay this information back to your client, please do, but make sure that your client understands what they'll be getting in line with what they've asked for. Okay, so it says here that the contemporary wedding cake has grown out of several different ethnic traditions. One of the first traditions began in ancient Rome, where a cake of wheat or barley was broken over the bride's head to bring good fortune to the couple. So there are different traditions when it comes to cakes and the origins of the wedding cake. So different questions you can ask your clients. Sorry, ask your baker. So you want to ask, what filling will you want? What filling? So what does the flavor? Traditionally, a wedding cake is a fruit cake. Normally, traditionally, it's a fruit cake, and you have you don't have different flavors. When growing up, we just had sorry, I have to. Growing up, you just had cakes, sponge cakes, vanilla cakes, and fruit cakes. But now you can freestyle with anything. I tell my clients, if you want your wedding cake, all tiers, different layers, fine, we can do that. But if you're going to keep any of those cakes, because one of the traditions for wedding cakes is that the last layer is kept for either your first anniversary or the christening of your first child, whichever comes first. But most people like to keep it for the christening. I'll tell you a story about that later. So if you're going to keep the last layer, if you're going to keep any of your cakes, that one should be a fruit cake. Fruit cakes they last longer because they have some alcohol in them. And if you're going to keep it longer than normal, then you may want to infuse it with some more alcohol. It will keep. Once it's in the freezer, nicely wrapped up, it will stay. So you want to know from your client what kind of filling, and ask your baker if they're able to do so as well. So, okay, we've also talked about fondant and buttercream. Ask them which is their specialty. So if your client wants fondant icing, and your baker, the person you're speaking with, is not conversant with that, they're only very good, they're versatile with the buttercream, please look for someone else, because they'll just be trying out, doing trial and error with your cake. You don't want that. You may not like the outcome. So I don't like overly experimenting with clients' requests, with events. I wouldn't do that. So get an expert. If your client wants fondant, please give them fondant. Again, another question you should be asking is can you make sugar flowers? Some sugar flowers, in fact, in bakers' shops, you can find sugar flowers for sale. Some people don't know how and have not perfected the art of making sugar flowers. So they buy, or you can put fresh bloom, that's fresh flowers, or you can have artificial flowers. So just ask your baker what they have and see and marry that to what your client has asked for. So please, pictures are key. If your client already has their pictures, show it to the baker. Can you achieve this? Yes. You as well should know who you're going to. it is best to use when you're dealing with high-end clients. You want to give them high-end quality. So once your client can afford to pay a certain amount for a cake, for whatever aspect of your event, please give them that. Don't go looking for cheap stuff. Don't go saving don't go making unnecessary savings. Yes, it's good to make savings, but when your client can afford to pay for Baker A, who is the A-list baker, do not go to Baker M, who is midway, okay? Whether we like it or not, for every industry, you have the experts, the top people, those who are just coming in, those who are at the middle stage, you have all of them. They have their different functions. At some point in your career, you will go to XYZ, you will try all of them out, but please, at this point where your clients can afford to pay for Baker A, please give them Baker A, okay? All right, so we've talked about flowers, and you also want to ask your baker what the process is like, yeah? Some people don't know that, okay, for a cake, you bake it down. Because it keeps, you can bake it sometime before the event. So some people would ask, oh, do you have, who's going to bake it, at what point will we bake it, and all of that. Yes, these are questions that you are open to ask, and your baker should be open to give you all of that, all of those answers. If you're attending that meeting, and I always insist on a cake tasting for my clients, if your client is in the initial meeting with your baker, fine. If not, at the cake tasting, your client can ask any question that they want. Please allow them that. Do not restrict them. Allow them to ask any question. Anything that is going to make your event more successful is what you want. So your client's instructions need to be taken seriously. Everything what they want needs to be taken into consideration before you close out on that baker. So you also want to ask your baker, let them know how many people. So when we had smaller events, you would know that, oh, I'm cutting up this cake for X amount of people. But now, it doesn't matter how big or small the cake is. What matters is that I have a guest size of 300, give me my cake, and also do cut up pieces. So those pieces are already individually wrapped or packed together in a dish in the middle of the table where people can pick the cakes and eat during the event. So it's either you use cake boxes or you wrap them up nicely, put in the cake boxes, and they're put displayed on the table. It adds a special touch to your table setting as well. So you want to find out all of these things from your client. Would you rather we just have the cut up pieces wrapped up in cling film on a plate on the center of the table for the guests to eat, or would you want every guest piece of cake individually wrapped in a cake box? They will pick out their cake boxes. These are the little details that personalize, that help you personalize your client's journey, your client's event. So these are little things. On the cake boxes, you can have their initials, you can have their names with their wedding date, anything that they want. So it's their call. Show them all the options and let them make that informed decision. So pricing is also key. Whatever your client has chosen, speak to your baker, let them tell you what it will cost. If your client is not able to afford that, negotiate and find out what the best price you can get for them is. That way, everybody's happy. It's a win for the bakers, a win for your clients, and ultimately a win for you. When your client is happy, you are happy. Trust me. Trust me, you are happy. Because that means what? Referrals. Referrals. So you have to ace every aspect on your planning list, on your checklist. You have to ace every aspect. So for cakes, you have to ace it. Just take every single detail every single detail. You have to be conscious of every single detail. Take that into consideration while you're helping your client choose. So your baker may just give you a lump sum, or they may tell you this, the base cake, which is so inches, will cost this, this will cost this, this will cost this. If I give you in this size, this will cost this, it will cost this. Allow your clients choose what they want. If they want a really big elaborate cake, okay, you may now start talking about, okay, we can't afford this. The budget, we've gone above our budget. Okay, we want to start talking about dummy cakes or reducing the size, the tiers. Just find a way around. Just find a way around it. You also want to discuss with your client when they're going to deliver. Yes, some bakers, I've heard some bakers say, you come and pick up the wedding cake, and I'm asking them, what does that even mean? How do you ask me to pick up the wedding cake? How do I set it up? I am not a baker. So please refrain from doing that. You can pick up a birthday cake, a 1 tier, 2 tiers. But when a cake needs to be set up, no, allow the expert to do it. You are not the expert. Let them come, transport their cake. They know how to do it. You and I, we just put it at the back seat. And by the time you get to your venue, this is broken, that is broken. No, you don't want to do that. Your baker knows how he or she transports their cake. They know how to do that. Bring it to the venue, get there, set it up, put all the nice details. If you're going to put petals, if you're going to put whatever candles, whatever extra details they want to put, fine, let them do that. Let them place the cake knife. Let them place the side plates, the knife, everything. Let them put it nicely for you. All you're waiting for is when the cake will be cut. In previous years, you have people say, when it comes to cutting of the cake, you have people call out the cake baker to come tell you about the cake. You know, I think I've always thought that was on a cake tradition. I didn't even have it at my wedding. I kept telling my aunt who baked the cake, my mom's friend, I was like, Auntie, no cake, no cake judging. The first of all, they say, come and talk about the cake, then you now bring out people to come and judge the cake. I just feel so archaic and outdated. Never really liked it. Anyway, so people don't really do that. If your client wants that, it's fine. We have the cake baker come and tell us that, okay, I put eggs, I put flour. Eggs is for fertility. This is for this is for that. It's okay if that's what they want. Anyway, coming back to our cake. So let them deliver, let them set up the cake. So some of our cake traditions are the cutting of the cake. So that is the key points during the event. You want to make sure that everything is well set up. The cake knife is available for it to be cut. The plates where they'll put the cakes for them to feed each other is also there. Sometimes some people forget after cutting the cake, just go into their first dance or they go into something else and they forget to feed. It happens. It doesn't mar anything, but those are just traditions that we observe. Cutting of the cake, they do it together. The feeding, they do it together. These are interesting parts of a reception that people like to see. So you feed each other, and now it has evolved. Some people will kneel down, some people will smash it in their faces. So it depends on what you want, but you want to discuss all of that with your client. So if they're going to smash the cakes in their faces, please get ready with napkins and what do you call them now, wet cloth, for them to be able to clean their faces, and just get ready, because if they're going to smash it into your bride's face, you want a makeup artist on standby. Yeah. Just make sure that all of those details, so you're not caught unawares, all of those details you have. So you have napkins, you have wet wipes for them to at least just clean up before they go, maybe change, and your bride has to touch up her makeup. Yeah. So just know everything. And okay, we were talking about back in the 19th century. That's when this came up. Couples save their top here for the christening of their first child. Today, couples generally wait a longer period of time after their ideal before having children. Okay, so we could either do it on their anniversary, their first anniversary, or at the christening. So I'll tell you that little story. So I didn't, my last year was saved for my baby's christening. My baby did not come till 4 years later. So after the first 2 years, I had my friend who was a baker. I told her about that. Look, I'm afraid that the cake will not keep. She was like, no, let's just cure it. Let's inject some more alcohol in it and it will be fine. So we did that, wrapped it up again and kept it. It kept for 4 years, and she recreated the cake when it was time for my son's christening. So I do know that this tradition is doable. You can do it. You can keep the cake as far as it's a traditional fruit cake. If you have the chocolate cake, it won't keep. If you have strawberry, all the other regular flavors, they won't keep. It has to be a fruit cake. Bear that in mind. So, sorry. Okay, so the white wedding cake, how did that evolve? You may want to know, so that when you're discussing with your clients, you want to tell them and inform them and advise them properly on how certain traditions came about and how they evolved. So white icing came from, was symbolic of money, of affluence. So people wanted that kind of thing when they wanted that to be, they wanted that to resonate with their event, with their wedding, when they were getting married. So the whiter the cake, it was perceived, the richer the person. So the perception is that the family was the rich family, the whiter the cake. So if you go to attend towards ivory, you're not so wealthy, but you're still in that sphere. The cake is traditionally a representation. The white wedding cake is traditionally a representation of the bride, because she's key, actually. The bride is key. So it's referred to as the bride's cake. I guess that's where our groom's cake now came from. Maybe they were jealous and now said, okay, you know what, we too should have a cake. And so these days we have a groom's cake. The groom's cake is traditionally a guy's cake. So it will depict what he likes, maybe his hobby or his profession. I've had, when we have engineers, we have the hard hat, or we have the safety boots. It depends. If it's a musician, you can have a guitar. It just depicts, or a piano. It just depicts what the groom is passionate about and what his profession is. So on those kind of cakes, you can freestyle, because we're not gonna save them. We're gonna eat it up right there. We're gonna eat it up at the venue and just have a good time. Okay, so where were we? Okay, sorry, I have a bit of a hitch here. Okay, so in the olden days, they also used to bake. They also used to bake charms into the wedding cakes. When you say charms, I'm not talking about those other charms. I'm talking about really nice, cute charms like a rocking chair, a heart, a high chair, different stuff you could bake into the cake. So that's not a tradition that we inherited. I don't think we've ever done it here. So that's something that's probably have happened during the Victorian times, because they believe that certain things attracted certain blessings or things to them. So what you would alternatively do in the modern day, so you see on your screen here, you see some bracelets. So you can pin those charms. So it's either you do a pearl bracelet or whatever charms you wanted to pin them on the cake, which you can just pull out, because there's a safer alternative to having bake the charms into the cake and someone can accidentally swallow. So things you could have, charms that you could traditionally put in your cake, you would understand why. So a heart, which depicts true love. So you want to attract true love to yourself. A ring, which is an upcoming engagement. A high chair, which is children. A wishing well, which is wishes coming true. Rocking chair, which depicts long life. A purse, which depicts good fortune. So these are just nice, tiny charms, which you normally see on a bracelet or as a pendant. So those are the kind of charms you could just put into your cake. If it's flower, it would depict new love, wedding bells, marriage, you know. So those are just little things that people were doing. An anchor would depict adventure. So those are the things they wanted to attract to themselves. So those are just some old traditions that we had. So okay, we had talked about the tiers. So the cake before you is the 4th tier. If you look at it closely, the base has roses all around it. That is 1 tier. The next one has like strips on it. That's the 2nd one. The next one has some floral details on it as well. And the last layer has a topping with roses on top. So those are the tiers. So this is a 4-tier cake. So like I said, it can go up to as many as how many tiers we can handle. And the more you go, you don't want a situation where you say, okay, I want a 20-tier cake and your venue cannot accommodate it. So all of these things you should take into consideration when helping your clients pick their wedding cake. So you have, like I said, we have different kinds of toppers. You can have for wedding cakes, birthday cakes, depend on what it is. If it's an anniversary cake, you can just have happy anniversary, or you can put the names or the initials, whatever, 15 years. So whatever it is you want to put. So toppings can be like on the left-hand side of the screen, you have happy birthday. On the other side, you see children's toppers. It depends on what you're doing. The last one on your right is like they are gnomes. You can have it on a Christmas cake. You can have it on different cakes. So it depends on what your client wants. Show them as many samples as possible. These days where children have themed parties, everything has to depict that theme. So the cake is the center of attraction, actually. The cake has to show. So you cannot have like a pony themed party or unicorn themed party and now just come and put a football themed cake. No, that's mismatched. It's mismatched. So you have to consider all of this. Finally, when you're designing your cake, when you're speaking with your baker, you want to know how many people will serve. And like I said to you before, here we would know that a 3-tier cake will serve 50 to 100 people, where you have a small party, like a birthday party, where you're not going to be saving any cake. But for me, these days, when we're having a wedding, I would just say to my bride or groom, we're not going to cut off the cake. These cakes will be pre-cut. So you want to discuss with your baker. We have how many guests. This is what we're going to, this is the number of cut-off pieces we would require. All of those details, if they're going to be boxed, you let them know. If, however they're going to be displayed, please let them know. Then make sure that your baker arrives on time so that you are able to settle on time. That's one. Cake is waiting before the guests arrive. It is very tacky for us to be setting up a cake when people are arriving. Please, you have to discuss all of these timelines with your baker. And also, if it's a cake, an event where you have to cut off the cakes, please let your baker know when you're going to cut that cake. So immediately after the cake is cut, you wheel it out and you go cut it up, either in the back room or in the kitchen or wherever it is, their food station, wherever it is they're going to have those cakes cut. So please bear that in mind, synchronize with your team, with your baker, and with all of all other people, so that we know they know what they are doing at what point, and everybody keeps to your timeline. So we've come to the end of the presentation. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'm ready to take questions if there are any. I know that I think some questions came in during the week. Tochi, do we have questions?
Yes, Ma. You can see the questions on the chat.
Okay, I can see from IB. Hi, IB. It said, is it compulsory to have the cake baker present at the event, or they can drop off and go? Oh, yes. So they don't need to be present. So two things. Two things. If they set up the cake, set it up nicely, they can go. As far as they don't need to cut up. They don't need to cut it up, then they can go. But if they need, excuse me, if they need to cut it up, yes, maybe they can just get one person to stay, to wait behind and, cut it up for you, or you can get someone else to do so. So it's not compulsory that they stay, but if you have a function for them to complete, please have them stay, because when handling all of these things, it's better that the expert does it. Because there's a way, you and I may just take a cake and just got no precision, but a baker knows what to do, how to section a cake that they come out nicely sized. So if you require the baker to cut up the cake, fine. If it's a wedding cake, set up the wedding cake. You have the cut up pieces already set up with the cake boxes or set up on the table, then you don't need the baker there. You don't. Okay. Okay, question. So what do you do with a difficult client that does not know what she wants with her cake, or says you should go on with what you think is best, but afterward turns around and says she doesn't like your design right there on the day of the event? No, that shouldn't happen. You know why? Because I've always said, every step of the way, carry your client along. For every decision. So it's not your decision to make, it's your client's decision. Even if your client says, okay, I don't have anything in mind. When you choose for your client, show your client. You have to run it by your client before you give the go-ahead to your baker. So this is not only for the cake now, for every other aspect of the event. For the cake especially, your client has to sign off on it, has to give you a go-ahead before you bake. So you can't have that situation on the day the client says, I don't like the cake. No. If it's something that they didn't sign off on, that is you not having carried out your functions properly. So please do your bit. Your client has to sign off on that design before you okay it on the baker's end, please. So to avoid all this kind of situations, please let your client make that informed decision. What happens when my client wants a particular cake vendor to bake her cake but cannot afford the vendor? Okay, so that's why negotiation comes in. You want to negotiate with that vendor. If the cake is an elaborate cake and she wants it from the A-list baker, why not? Negotiate. That's why you're her planner. And I have a good relationship with all my vendors. So I'm going to put in pull all the stops. I'm going to ask you, okay, what do I get? What discounts are you giving me as your colleague? What can we do to bring down this budget? And the easiest thing to do is say, okay, clients, will you be flexible enough for us to reduce the tiers? Yes or no? If it's yes, we can reduce the tiers and also do dummy cakes. If it's no, then we do dummy cakes and only have one layer that is real. It's doable. That is your job. Your client can dream. Your job is to actualize it. So please bear that in mind. Have a good relationship with your baker and be able to negotiate and come up with fresh ideas to give your client that dream event, that extraordinary experience on their budgets. Hi, Favor. So what about engagement cake? Do we have engagement party cake? You can have a cake for any event, any event. You can have a cake for any event. I'll tell you a story. So if you can have a christening, of course you can have if you can have for a bridal shower, you can have for an engagement. You can even put the cake inside, put the ring inside. You can even have a good luck cake, wish you well in your exams. I pioneered that in my university days. You know, I presented my boyfriend with one, and every other person started doing it. It became a trend. So please, by all means, it just brightens up the room. It just enhances your event, no matter how small. No matter how small. IB says, when is the right time for cake arrival for an event? And what if my vendor has an emergency last minute? What do I do? Okay, so best time, I like to do 2 hours, 1 hour max before 12. So what I do, when it is time for church, if my bride is going to church at 10, I require my cake vendor to be there at 10. So that if there are any issues, 1 hour max, we are there at 11. Okay, so that's how I like to time it. 2 hours before the end of church, or when church starts. That's when I require my people to be there, or before 12 o'clock. So that whatever setup you're doing, you're done and you're out. Yeah. So what if there's a last minute emergency? I would expect my vendor to inform me if there's a last minute emergency, so that we can rub minds on how to check that, how to do damage control. If, for instance, so what's the worst thing that can happen? The cake will not come. Your baker may tell you, oh, let's imagine that her place burnt down. Or she doesn't tell you, maybe there's an emergency, she can't bring herself to tell you, she doesn't know what your reaction will be. Her phone is switched off. It's past 10, it's past 11, it's almost 12. So at 10, when you're unable to reach her, my team knows. They start calling vendors way before 10 o'clock. Are you on your way? It's at 10, that's when you're supposed to be here, fine. At 10, you don't see your vendor, 10:30, 11, you should start making, activating your plan B. I've always said, have plan A, that's your original plan. Have a plan B, have a plan C. So in that situation, what will my plan B be? My plan B will ultimately be, let me speak to another baker vendor of mine, because I have a multitude of vendors in each aspect. So I'll speak to another vendor. At this time, I'm more concerned with getting that cake to display. So I will be looking for a vendor who has dummy cakes on display at her store or wherever. So that is what I will be looking for. Please, can you give me a dummy cake to display? Look at the situation I'm having, blah, blah, blah. That should work. Or if it's a cake that needs to be cut up, it's a birthday cake that will be cut up and shared, you can run out to a store that already has ready-made cakes. There are bakers who have already made cakes. There are supermarkets, high-end supermarket chains that have already made cakes. So those are the options you may want to consider. But these are plans you should already put in place. So it's not then you start thinking, oh, which baker already does this? Or which? So these are things, plans you should have on the back burner, so that if you need to move it to your front burner, you do that quickly and activate your plan. Okay. So do we have any more questions? If there's anyone here who wants to unmute themselves and ask a question, that's fine. If not, I will say again, please put your contact details. If you want the slides of this class, you can put your contact details in the chat box and we'll be happy to send them off to you. So Tochi, if we don't have any more questions, are we good? Okay, so I will say thank you once again for joining us. It was a pleasure having you. I hope you've learned a thing or two. And don't forget, you can be an octopus. Just ask me how. Okay? So till next time, stay safe. Bye.
I don't think we have any.
Okay, cool. Ah, sweet Jesus. Yes. Oh.